I'm about 6'1", 6'2", on a good day, 225. I'm a 235. I'm a big dude. And I can't stand it when people are walking on a sidewalk and they're taking up the whole sidewalk and they're not looking ahead. And I've done this move more than once in my life. I'm not proud of it. I said, fuck it. They weren't looking up. And I just lowered my shoulder and I cold cocked this son of a bitch. And I just ran right through him. I should have stopped. I should have said something.
What the hell? How old was this person?
30s. Guys, 5'6" dudes. So I just plow right through him.
What was he looking at his phone? Was he looking at his phone?
Yeah, they were all talking, just fucking around. Nobody was looking. I got pissed. But it gets better.
You went full Oklahoma drill in some neighborhood up in Boston.
On a bridge into like the nicest building on a fucking incredible island of nice buildings. But it gets better, Ian.
You're listening to Let Me Speak to a Manager with Frank Cava and Ian Mathews.
What a crock of shit.
Yeah, that was hot mic, Sam.
You can't say God on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Frankie!
Ian, you son of a bitch.
Frankie, you gaslighting son of a bitch. You don't even know what that means, do you?
I'm going to go on a diatribe about it, Ian.
I'm going to learn you about gaslighting today. I'm excited to learn you about it.
Can't wait.
All of our half-ass internet research has taught us enough about gaslighting to share with our audience. So gaslighting has been in the press quite a bit lately. And it made me look it up and search it. So I'm getting older, Frank, but I am not old enough to have gone to the theater in 1944 to have seen the original movie of gaslighting. But this has come out. And so two very high profile things have gone down over the last couple of weeks. One of which is the Las Vegas Raiders head coach, John Gruden, just resigned. And he resigned based on a series of emails that came out that he sent over a decade ago that were racist. They were misogynistic. They were homophobic. There was lots that came out in it. But it started with one email. And John Gruden made a comment about the head of the NFL Players Union, Demorius Smith, is that his name? Denoris Smith?
I think it's yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how to say it.
I'm not close. But the reason why I'm getting his name wrong is because John Gruden called him Dumb Boris Smith. And D. Smith is a African-American that represents the Players Union. And then he went out and said he has lips the size of Michelin tires, which to anyone who hears that knows that's an incredibly racist thing to say around a very sensitive topic. And instead, John Gruden, when it came out, tried to convince the world that, oh, I just always say people have rubber lips when I don't think they're being truthful to me. And this, in turn, is gaslighting. And I'm going to explain why in a second, but I'm going to use one other example. So Urban Meyer, head coach of Jacksonville Jaguars. He is in hot water right now with his owner, with his team, with his wife. He was in Ohio for a game and he stuck around. He did not come back with his team. And he went to his bar. Urban Meyer was the head coach in Columbus for the Ohio State Buckeyes before he was with Jacksonville. And a video came out of Urban Meyer sitting on a stool and a much younger, Urban Meyer's 55, probably 60 maybe, sitting on a stool and a much younger girl dancing in front of him. And Urban Meyer had a big press release that came out and he tried to convince everyone that what they saw was not what actually was happening. And he said something to the effect of, I was at my restaurant and a group of people started dancing and they tried to get me out on the dance floor. I shouldn't have been there. Not I did anything wrong. I shouldn't have been there. So what Urban is saying is what you think you saw, which was a girl dancing on your lap in a bar, is not really what happened. So again, gaslighting. Now, day later, another video came out that showed Urban Meyer's hand all over the same girl's butt. And with John Gruden, a couple of days later, more emails came out that were equally horrific, and maybe opposed to different groups, but equally horrific, and he went out. So they were both accused of lying and gaslighting. And the term gaslighting comes from the movie with the same name. In this movie, an Italian opera singer moves to Italy. She's an opera singer. She meets a guy, they get married. And throughout the movie, weird things start happening in the house. And she keeps bringing them up to him like, hey, things that were in different orders are now missing. They're moving. And he's saying, oh, you're mistaken. You must be wrong. And she'd say, the gas lights, this is back when there weren't real lights. There were actually gas lights. They're dimming. They keep dimming. It's really weird. It happens at night. The lights go way down. And he convinces her that she's making it all up in her head. And to the point where it gets so elaborate that he convinces her that she's losing her mind. And the whole point of him doing this, he believes that she's rich and that her aunt had bequeathed her a bunch of diamonds and jewels. And so he's actually been up in the attic looking for the jewels the whole movie. And that's why the gas lights keep going dim, because he's walking around up there moving, the gas lights are going down. But when she says this is happening, he tries to convince her she's crazy. And so this became a term, gaslighting became a term of when you try to convince someone in a manipulative fashion that something that did happen, didn't happen, and they're making it up in their mind. So Urban tried to convince us that he was just a bystander in a bar and what we saw in the videos isn't what happened. And John Gruden tried to convince us that he didn't make a racist, terrible comment about an African-American, that in fact, he was just talking about people of all colors are liars if they have rubber lips. And so in both cases, they were trying to convince us of something that didn't actually happen, instead of just owning up to doing something really stupid.
So if you're curious as to why we always beg for likes, thumbs up, shares, and subscribes, is because of four things. Very topical. Movies from 1944, opera, and two asshole coaches in the NFL, both making $10 million a year. So
all four of these topics are incredibly SEO friendly,
This is why our podcast is such an internet smash.
Yes, an international sensation. We care about the Italian viewers, and we think this is going to blow up in Italy by talking about this movie for sure.
There is no doubt.
So
let me say something quickly. So as we were kind of building out this outline, this is going to be a quick one. One of the things we talked about was gaslighting is kind of the negative. And when we tried to find examples of people who owned it, most people who come out and own it were usually cheating on their wives. Like we thought of Bezos and Kobe Bryant and Kevin Hart, and these were some of the examples. So I think we can elaborate forever on the negative and turning it into something. When Ian and I talked about this, just kind of off the cuff, as just on the phone, one of the things that I brought up was ego. So in addition to the gaslighting story from the 40s that I know everyone's going to check out tonight on Amazon or Netflix, whichever your service of choice is, the other piece of this is the ego piece. John Gruden said some awful stuff. He said these things when he was employed with ESPN, who physically is owned by Disney, who sells wonderment and not racism. And then the other one is Urban Meyer going back to a bar. Both of these guys are egomaniacs. And not only the egomaniacs, we talked about how Urban Meyer's ego got in the way of like his hiring decisions when he first moved into the Jacksonville Jaguars. But you're sitting in a bar with your name on it in a state where you're highly beloved. But at the same time, he did some really bad stuff. Like he had a coach on his staff who was, it came out that he was abusing his wife, and Urban Meyer hid it. And the person who broke this story, there was a story, I mean, this is coming from the Wall Street Journal, a very reputable source, was someone who used to be a fanboy of Urban Meyer, but thought so poorly of him during this thing with his assistant coach that he no longer was a fan. And he thought there was like some comeuppance for him that was due because of the fact that he treated this other situation poorly. And John Gruden came out and he was just so egregious with things that he said that he pissed enough people off with, like, there's 680,000 emails were sent to the Washington, formerly Redskins, now football team, during a sexual scandal, all of which have been confiscated. The only thing leaked so far is Gruden. So the only person in another terrible situation to be fired was someone who was outside the organization and head coach of a different organization, which leads you to believe that there's enough bad stuff from both of these two guys that people were pissed off enough to take aim at them.
I think there's a lot of things that I look at here. One, take aside whatever, everyone's mind is messed up in some way. Everyone has thoughts that should not be shared with anybody, including their wife. Like there are some things you just keep your own thoughts to yourself.
Correct.
But in general, I believe that anyone in business should have to go through some kind of class explaining how email works. Frank, it is fascinating to me how many people I fired over a 20-year period because of dumbass things they wrote in emails. Just terribly stupid things they wrote in emails, stupid jokes they made that were insulting to people, relationships they had that were inappropriate. Unbelievable. What most people don't understand is when you send an email, when you receive one, when you delete one, when you delete it in your deleted folder, it doesn't go away. It is sitting on a server. It is incredibly cheap to keep thousands and thousands of emails in these companies sitting on servers, usually by AWS, Amazon's services, where they sit on their servers. Those emails sit there forever. If you send it there, it's damn near permanent that people can go through and get there. And I'm blown away by it. I used to talk about it with our new employees. I would literally bringing it up and I would tell people, look, this is not your email. I can go print your last 3 months anytime I want and have them put on my desk by someone in IT. And that's what I would do when something would come up, when there would be accusations of a manager being abusive or bullying their employee. We would go pull their emails and we would sit and read them because they were our emails. They were just borrowing it. Just because your name is on it with our company name, it's mine. I can go look at it whenever I want. It's legal. You are working for my company. And it blows my mind how many people are so frivolous about the things that they will put in an email. That's not to say that you should be a racist or you should have these thoughts at all. But dear God, if you are, why are you putting it in writing in the first place? To me, the kind of hubris or ignorance that goes into that is mind blowing for someone who makes $10 million a year on a 10-year contract.
So there's a movie that I've seen. I don't think Ian has. We've talked about it before. It's called The Social Network. And it's
Is it from the 40s?
Nope. This decade, actually.
A little more topical.
And it's about Facebook and the launch. And there's a book called Accidental Billionaires that spawned the movie, The Social Network. But in The Social Network, in one of the first scenes, the character playing Mark Zuckerberg says an insult to the woman who he was dating. And she was pissed at him. And she goes, Mark, you put this on the internet. You put it on the internet. And then she goes, the internet is written in pen, not in pencil. Now, what we're talking about here is email, not the internet, but it's the same thing. Like if you have an Instagram account or a Facebook account and you do all kinds of crazy stuff, like I have people that run my hiring department that always look up what's happening behind the scenes on your Facebook page, especially if you make it public. Like these things follow you. So you have a brand was having breakfast this morning with kind of an old guard guy, an investor in my market. He's a home builder, and he had a relationship with someone. He lent him a bunch of money. Turned out very poorly for the investor. The guy ended up fleeing town. He's since been sued. A bunch of bad things happened to him. And I'll leave his name and his company name out of it. But the point is, he picked up and moved to South Carolina or Georgia. I think he moved to South Carolina, then he moved to Georgia. In both instances, he went to interview. And in both instances, they did a Google search, found out who he was, and they didn't hire him or even call him back because he had just a load of shit behind him.
Yeah.
So it's really important, reputation. And not only is it important, it's important to be honest with it, and it's important to kind of control it. And what Ian's talking about with thoughts, what you put in writing, what you post, you should think about this because it lasts and it lives.
It can be used against you. The word discoverable is something every college student should learn. Discoverable. What do I put in writing? What do I share? What is electronically saved? It can be used against you 4, 5, 6 employers later. It is all permanent and it is all fair game, and you can lose your job over any of it. So you have to be smart about it. And if you are going to do something incredibly stupid, own it with your team. I made a mistake. This is on me. Because if you try to gaslight people, they're not going to buy it. If you try to lie around it, all it makes them do is want to dig more, to go find at it. It makes people want to search more. If you just come clean with what happened, people have nothing left to dig on. It goes away much faster. If you don't, it will go on and on and on, and you will just delay the problem and take more of a reputational risk than you would if you'd have just admitted it.
So I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me over the weekend. I was away at a wedding for my cousin, and drank a bunch of wine, had a couple cigars on Friday night at the wedding. I woke up Saturday. I was kind of groggy, didn't feel great. I didn't deserve to. I mean, I treated my body like crap. I get up and I do a run. I'm doing a 3-mile run. And I'm on the back end of my run. I'm just about to finish. And if you don't know me, I'm about 6'1", 6'2", on a good day, 225. I'm a 235. I'm a big dude. And I can't stand it when people are walking on a sidewalk and they're taking up the whole sidewalk and they're not looking ahead. And I've done this move more than once in my life. I'm not proud of it. I said, fuck it. They weren't looking up. And I just lowered my shoulder and I cold cocked this son of a bitch. And I just ran right through them. I should have stopped. I should have said something.
What the hell? How old was this person?
30s. Guys, 5, 6 dudes. So I just plow right through them.
What was he looking at his phone? Was he looking at his phone?
Yeah, they were all talking, just fucking around. Nobody was looking. I got pissed. But it gets better.
You went full Oklahoma drill in some neighborhood up in Boston.
On a bridge into like the nicest building on a fucking incredible island of nice buildings. But it gets better, Ian. I see a police car literally pass me 30 seconds after I smashed into this guy. And instead of going to the hotel and making a right, I decided to make a left, and I'm going to run over to where my uncle's boat is and go talk to him. I'm running. The police officer stops. I just keep running. And I run past his car. And he yells at me, "Hey!" I'm like, "Yeah?" He goes, "What was that?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I was behind you. I saw the whole thing." I go, "Yeah?" He's like, "What was that?" I'm like, "They didn't move." He goes, "You lowered your shoulder, smashed into him." I'm like, "They took up the whole sidewalk." He goes, "You lowered your shoulder and you smashed right into him." And I was about to go into the third round of bullshitting him. I looked at him and I go, "Sir, you're right. That was a dumb fuck thing to do. I'm sorry. It was stupid. Thank you for the warning. I appreciate it." And I ran off. And
he didn't say anything else after that?
That was it. He didn't chase me. I admitted it. He was right. Like, there was no charges pressed. Nothing happened. It was a good reminder. But it's one of those things where it's like, I fucked up. I was really dumb. I'm not proud of it. I've told this to my trainer and he goes, "Yeah, they're not going to jump you. You're too big, but you'll do that to the wrong person. They'll just shoot you." And he's right. It was a dumb thing to do. But what happened immediately is I realized it was really stupid. I didn't gaslight. I tried twice to someone. I tried to bullshit a bullshitter. And I realized really quick,
You were
I'm going to
gaslighting.
lose this argument. And instead, I just owned it. And then I went into sales mode and said, thank you for the warning. And I ran off.
You were gaslighting. You were trying to make it seem like, hey, they were in the middle of the sidewalk. It was an accident. The guy's like, I was watching, dude. You plowed that guy as hard as you could. You gaslighted. It didn't work out well for you. If you'd have kept gaslighting, he'd have got out of the freaking car with some cuffs and bit a dick. Like at some point, you got to just cut it out, come clean.
That's it.
Hey, I cannot think of a better way to wrap this short term episode of Frank Gaslighting. Now you know. And for all of the 1940s film fanatics that like to watch us, please give us a 10 for this amazing episode if we've taught you anything today. Good seeing you, Frankie.
Talking about not putting things out there and permanent. We just talked about a story of me being an idiot.
Quit bullying poor kids on the streets. At least it wasn't like an 80-year-old or something. That story could have taken a terrible turn.
Oh, what a dumbass.
See ya,
See ya.
Frankie.